Welcome to Table Talk with Tottie, a podcast for millennials where we bring real-life topics on the table for real talk. I am your host, Natasha Weston, lifestyle entrepreneur and 3 times best-selling author. I'm a sucker for business, branding, and self-development, but I created this space to escape from the worlds we create for ourselves on the daily. Table Talk with Tottie is the epitome of having the girl next door right in your back pocket. So kick back, pour up, and join me each week for real talk, current events, and powerful conversations about life, business, and all that other ish. What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Table Talk with Tottie podcast. Today is Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018, and you are listening to episode number 38. Welcome back, guys. I'm super excited about today's show. Today's episode is sponsored by Spot Productions. As a small business owner, how many times have you gotten frustrated when it came time to create blog posts, videos, take photos, write emails for marketing, or even when it came down to coming up with great podcast episode ideas for your brand? Well, if you answered yes, then I have great news for you today. What if I told you that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that there is a team of content development experts who are waiting to help you master the content creation process that's going to attract more customers and income to your endeavors? Spot Productions is a digital content creation agency where they take your story and brand message and transform them into shareable content to grow your business. Spot Productions' 30 days of content service is perfect for the business owner who'd rather spend their precious time building their business than coming up with content ideas for the month. My favorite part of the 30 days of content is that it's all done for you and delivered in just 7 days. To learn more about Spot Productions and their 30 days of content service, you can visit them at totspotproductions.com. Welcome back, all of my peeps out there in internet digital land. I'm so excited to be back for another show. We took a little break last week, which was totally not planned. I actually just had so much going on, more appointments with Tyler and just getting him situated, and just really for the first time diving into working with clients for Spot Productions. Last week we talked about the new website at natashaweston.com, so if you haven't checked that out yet, I've been getting a lot of great feedback from you guys. You're loving the site, you're loving the ease of use, and that's the goal. So shout out to everybody that's been visiting the site. Don't forget to subscribe while you are over there checking it out. I also talked about our newest announcement here on the show about being a part of the iHeartRadio family now. So if you have been listening to podcasts and internet radio through iHeartRadio, now you can also catch episodes of the podcast over there as well. We talked about the Believe Bigger book, which I actually just picked up again for the first time in almost 2 weeks. I've been so busy, I haven't really been having time to sit down and actually read. And this is one of those books where you can't just skim through it. You want to just kind of let it all marinate a little bit. So it's one of those books I don't want to read distracted, because sometimes we read but we're reading distracted. So I actually picked up the book again and I think I'm on chapter 5 now. And what's so good is I bought a copy for one of my best friends, and so we're trying to read it together, so when we see each other, we have something to talk about, So I'm excited about that. That book is on my book recommendation list on the blog. So if you want to check it out, you can go to natashaweston.com/blog. And I also gave you 3 ways to spice up your brand this summer. So if you want to catch up on that episode and past episodes, you can do so at natashaweston.com/podcast. All right. So this week, what is on my table? Well, let me just say happy belated Easter, or happy Resurrection Sunday. I know that's what we call it in my household, but whatever you call it, I hope you had an amazing Easter holiday with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. I went to church. On Sunday, and Tyler and I both participated in the Easter program, or Easter portion of Sunday service. So that was, it was good. Tyler was, I'm starting to wonder if my child is going to be some sort of actor, because he totally, he has no ounce of shyness in his body at all. And y'all, believe it or not, and I know this may be hard to believe, but I used to be shy. I'm just now getting out of my quote unquote shy phase. But this child, I'm watching him, and he is he's very outgoing. He's very personable. He's not, at this age, I don't see him being easily influenced yet. I'm going to pray that's not going to be the case, but he just does his own thing, and he doesn't care who's around. And so it was very rewarding to watch how he handled himself during a performance, or at a service where there was a crowd full of people. So shout out to Tyler. Y'all make sure y'all connect with him on Instagram at Lil Guy Tyler. So hope y'all's Easter was amazing. Like I just mentioned a few moments ago, I launched a new podcasting service. I know a lot of you have been listening to the show now for over 2 years, and you've asked me tons of questions. I've launched a do-it-yourself course and all that good stuff. But what I've noticed, and I was just talking to a client about this yesterday, is that sometimes, because it's so easy for us to access courses and classes and things like that, sometimes it gets easy to just consume and not actually implement and act on. And then there's a handful of people who, they just may not have the time, or even with a class, they still don't understand the technical part of putting a podcast or a show together. And so my team and I got together, and we decided that maybe offering some type of do it or done for you service for those out there who want to launch podcasts would be beneficial. And so we opened up 5 beta slots, and we've got 2 of those slots left. So that's, good feedback. And it lets me know that we're on the right track with this service. And so I'm really excited about that. Again, you can learn more about that over at Totspot Productions. And the meat of, I think, today's show, and what I really want to focus on, is the emphasis of the power of just getting started, the power of just taking the first step. So I had the honor of attending an event this past Saturday by a young lady named Sade Brown, who goes to my church. And Sade is also the co-host of, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys, but my mom started what's called Millennials and Baby Boomers United, a powerful conversation between 2 generations. And we've done, I think, 3 Facebook Lives so far, but Sade is one of the co-hosts. She's the other millennial. And y'all know I'm the other millennial, right? But so we started that about a month ago, and my mom knows Sade a little more than I do, but I didn't realize that she suffered from depression and anxiety, and this has been her struggle for years. And she's overcome it a couple of times, and now she's on a mission to share her story with others. And I could not be more proud of her. For one, doing your first event is hard. Now, if y'all read my first book, the whole last chapter is totally just dedicated to that particular incident or situation, if you will. And I share that story so much because doing anything for the first time is extremely hard. And most people get ideas to do events or launch businesses or do certain things, but they never actually get it done because it paralyzes them. The thought of not being successful, the thought of not getting support, which we've talked about several times here on the show. And so I want to really kind of just give y'all my takeaways from just being able to witness her executing her first event. So she had an event this past Saturday called Spa Day with Sade. And y'all, it was so amazing. Now, she didn't have a room full of people. And of course, she had normal first event anxiety, if you will. Just all of the things that you wonder. Will people show up? Will people support? How will it turn out? Will it go as planned? And just to see how she handled herself was so exciting, because I remember my first event. I'm not going to give it away. Y'all go get the book, 10 Effective Ways to Start Your Business with $0. It's the very last chapter in the book. And I share the story about my first event and how no one showed up, and how for a while it paralyzed me and allowed me to, number one, put the blame on everybody that didn't show up because I thought they owed me something. It taught me a lesson that even though God gives us visions, He gives it to us for a reason. There are going to be people who He places in our paths who are going to help us to actually manifest that vision, but everybody's not going to get it. And just because everybody doesn't get your vision does not mean that you're not supposed to execute it. And so that's the lesson that event taught me. My first event back in 2011. And, it paralyzed me for a while, and I was afraid to do any first. I was afraid to step out and do anything different, or step out and do anything fearful of not getting support. And at the end of the day, when God gives us visions, there's a saying that says He will make provisions for it. And that's what I've learned to be true. Once I overcame that paralyzing state after having my first event. And it's kind of crazy because it seems like God always places people in my past who are on their journey of first, especially first events. I remember one of my good friends, Takima House, she had her first conference in New York City, and she flew me out there to speak on, what did I speak on? Being bold. And I was there. I got there early enough to witness her first event anxiety and, her, just going through what most people who are passionate about something and they express it to the world in the form of an event. I was there to witness all of that, and I had to share this same story with her. And it seems like God has put me in that position so many times, I can't even count, of being in the position to really just share that part of my story with people and help them to overcome that initial fear of executing something for the first time. And so shout out to you, Sade, if you're listening to this. I'm super proud of you for stepping out and doing something. And then on a subject of depression and anxiety, when mental illnesses are running rampant. And this is a topic that's kind of taboo. Nobody really wants to talk about it, especially if it, kind of runs in your family. And what I love about what Sade is doing is that she's trying to implement the spiritual aspect of it, and how we shouldn't depend on depression. And I'll just go ahead and say this, although I've never actually dealt with I think an extreme level of depression. We all deal with some sort of depression at some at some period in time. For me, my anxiety and I think depression sets in a little bit when it seems like everything's caving in on me, and when life is happening just way too fast, way too quick, and it's not going in the direction that I necessarily wanted to go in. There have been times where I couldn't pay my bills. I didn't know how I was going to pay it. I didn't know where the money was coming from. And I would find myself wanting to just stay in bed, or I would just take way too many days off because I was running from and avoiding what I needed to face in actuality. And so to learn more about that, I think she has an Instagram page and a Facebook page, but you can look up Spa Day with Sade. She's going to be doing more events like that in the near future. So y'all stay in tune for that. So, here's the thing. We're just now entering into a new month, a new quarter. And now is the perfect time. If you've been sitting on an idea, for an event, just get out there and do it, right? Because after you do the first thing, the beautiful thing about not having something perfected is that you always have something to work towards. So you always have something to build on. So, for Sade, she could always figure out, okay, what would I like to add to my events going forward? What could I do differently in the pre-planning process or the post-event process? And so there's always something you can improve. What fun is it if you do something and it's so perfect until you have nothing to work towards? It really is kind of like boo, like boo, boo, boo. So don't let perfection paralyze you. And I've been getting a lot of questions about, well, what if I have a passion to do something, or what if I have an idea and I don't really know where to get started? I don't really know where the opportune places are. I don't know where the opportunity is in my industry. I don't know what people really want from me. Or maybe you're multi-gifted and passionate like I am, and you're trying to figure out in what area can you present the most value to someone else, or in what area would you sell the most or market the best? And so that's a question that you always ask yourself. Even if you're a veteran in this whole business space, it can become extremely, intimidating sometimes. Just figure out what you need to be doing, because there's so much that we can do. And so I just want to challenge you out there. If you've been confused about where to begin, I want to challenge you to ask more questions. We underestimate the power of questions. And I learned this actually from Tony Robbins a couple of years ago. I was watching, what was I watching? He has a program called Something with Destiny. If you follow Tony Robbins, you know what I mean. But I watched that, and I watched his Netflix special. Yeah, that's what it was. His Netflix special, where he basically had them to ask certain questions, and how the answers to those questions were able to help them to grow and to do different variation of things. But I started implementing that into my life, my personal life, my professional life. And what it taught me is that when you can ask questions, and not just ask questions, right? But ask specific questions, you'll get specific answers that lead you to specific results. And so I think sometimes we underestimate the power of just asking. And rather it be asking people for feedback, rather it be asking people what they like, what they don't like. We don't want to ask questions sometimes, or in most cases, I find personally, because we're kind of anticipating the worst response or the worst kind of answer. And even the worst kind of answer are the ones that don't make you feel all fluffy inside. They're still beneficial and valuable. They still can help you in some area. And so if you are not asking questions at all, I challenge you to ask questions. So if you're a business owner and you're trying to figure out what type of product you should create next, what type of service you should launch next, then I challenge you, use those poll features on social media, ask the questions. I don't care, like y'all know, I ask questions all day, and that's because I want to be as on track as possible with knowing what my people want, with knowing what types of episodes you guys want to hear. And so I ask questions, and I listen, and I do a lot of surveying and evaluations, because that's what helps me to know what to do next. Otherwise, you'll kind of just be chasing your tail and trying to just kind of wing it all the time. And when you can just get constant feedback from, your audience or your peers or your colleagues, it's the best way to know what you should be doing in most cases. And obviously, none of this will happen if you don't start. If you don't have a foundation of something to base what you're trying to do on. So if you're trying to do an event, you won't know how to make that event the best type of event in its field if you don't do one event and tweak it from there. So I hope that makes sense. So that's what's been on my table this week, guys. Not much, I guess, in perspective, but I did attend that event, and I had some things that I wanted to pull from that. And then, of course, Easter. Again, we didn't have an episode last week, and it was just because it was just a little bit crazy, and I just couldn't sit down and actually record a show. So this week's Table Talk Roundup. So if you're new to the show, this is the area where we just kind of talk about some of the current events. Some weeks I don't have current events that I think I want to talk about, so I normally kind of just replace it with something else. But rest in peace to Winnie Mandela, who passed on yesterday at the age of 81. Phenomenal woman. Rest in peace to her. Prayers with the family and everyone impacted by her death. I think the world in general impacted by her death. And she's definitely someone who, as a woman, you want to just always keep in mind when you're setting out to do things that may not be the most popular or the most accepted. So I always, am grateful for women like Mrs. Mandela for what she's done, what she's stood for. It's just, it always gives us something to look at and to look forward to in life. Another thing that I actually just saw yesterday was about Dwayne The Rock with his fine self Johnson. He opens up about his depression battle and his mom's attempted suicide. And besides him opening up about that, what really just made me feel just great about the fact that he was so transparent about his battles with depression and how when he dealt with depression, how he cried a lot, was the response that he got after sharing that part of his life. And while we sometimes don't want to open up about certain issues that we have, it's almost like the world is waiting on you. And I try to keep that in mind whenever I'm hesitant about being transparent or opening up or telling you guys about anything in particular that I may feel like I'm trying to avoid the response or the rejection or the negative comments about or the input or unsolicited advice. What I always find to be true is that the minute I start talking about it, there's someone out there that says, thank you for opening up about this. And I don't know about y'all, but that's the kind of impact that I want to make. I don't just want to be out here in these streets just sharing all of the glitz, the glamour, the good stuff. And, that's the easiest stuff to share. But, it's always a challenge to open up about those things. But I always say when you overcome something and something that has, transitioned your life or changed your life in any way, I highly encourage you to reach back and help someone else that's going through that same thing. And it could be anything. And so shout out to The Rock for being so open and honest about it and sharing that. So if you haven't checked out that story, it's all over the internet. Shout out to Twitter because that's where I got it from yesterday evening when I was preparing my notes for today's show. Empire and Star returned last week. And y'all know those are my shows. Those are totally my shows. I love both shows. But one show in particular that I'm really in love with is Star. And I think it's because of the storyline. But also, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta came back, I think, a couple weeks ago. And I haven't even been watching, the last couple of seasons. Only because I kind of feel like fake reality TV is dead. So do y'all think that fake reality TV is dead or nah? They call it reality TV, but I think it's I just think it's scripted, so it's fake. I'll just leave it right there. So I think series like Star, what's the show that I always tell y'all about? 911. Some of the newer shows that are coming out, I think they're here to stay. Now, I know everything runs its course, and I'm sure maybe 5 years from now, those shows will get old. There'll be something new, right? But I think for right now, in the age that we live in, I think series like Star are here to stay because people are more drawn to what's relatable. So if you've never seen Star on Fox, and this is not sponsored, by the way, unless Fox wants to sponsor an episode, shout out to Fox. But Star is basically about 3 girls who are in Atlanta, and they're on a mission to become singing sensations. That's kind of in a nutshell. The show is produced by Lee Daniels, who also is the producer of Empire. And it's starring Queen Latifah, and I can't tell you anybody else. I know Diddy's son is on there, Quincy, and Lawrence from the old Real Housewives of Atlanta, who's actually a great actor, by the way. I love him on Star. But anyway, I think that shows like this are here to stay because it's just so relatable. So even if you're not, the age of the girls on this show, you can still relate to having a dream and doing pretty much anything to actually make that dream happen. Especially if you come from a place of struggle. If, maybe your parents were less fortunate and, maybe you kind of put it all out on the line to get where you are. That's what I love about the show is the drive and the hunger of especially the star of the show, Star. Just to see the different girls and their backgrounds and the different things they battle with. Like the sister, she, battles with drug abuse. And the black girl on the show, Alex, she comes from wealth. Her father was a celebrity. Her mom is, a little off, who Naomi Campbell plays, by the way. So every girl has a different kind of history and background, but how they kind of mesh together and make the show, it's amazing. I love it because it's relatable. And I think the shows now, they have like this implementation of issues such as gender equality, the elevation of women in power, women in higher positions, race issues. I know that show Shots Fired with Sanaa Lathan, which I'm so mad about that they took off air. That show was so good. But, it talked about race issues and policing. And I think how they have implemented so many issues that mean so much to us, especially in our country. I think that's what makes the show so unique. So it's not just the initial storyline, but it's the implementation of the issues that the people that are watching care about. And I think that's what makes anything great. Whether you're making a TV show, whether you're launching a business, it has to boil down to what do the people care about, because we continue to return to things that we care about, right? We don't want to watch anything or be a part of anything that we don't care about, right? And so today's table talk takeaway is actually not my own quote, but it's definitely one word from my mother. So if you follow me on Instagram, I actually shared this last week. And she likes to say, turn your messes into messages. And so I know in today's show, I talked about the event that I attended this past weekend and about how this young lady turned her story about how she battled with depression and anxiety and how she turned it into an event. That event in return, is changing lives, it's impacting lives, it's helping other women who are dealing with depression and anxiety. It's helping them to work their way through overcoming these issues and challenges that they're facing. So I don't know what challenge you have overcome in life or are overcoming, but I want to encourage you today to not look at it as so much a challenge, but look at it as a qualifying season so that you can turn that mess or that challenge into a message that's going to help people. Everybody's end goal, I'm sure if you're listening to this show, our end goal is to make an impact, right? Our end goal is to impact someone, not to just be here existing, right? But we actually want to breathe life into other people, impact other people's lives so that they can live a better life, so that in return we can live a better life, have a better conscience, be more valuable in the earth. And so that's today's table talk takeaways, to turn your messes into messages, a word from my mother. Muva with a V, in case y'all didn't know. I used to live in New York for only a year and a half, but that doesn't mean anything. They say mother in New York, so I'm going to say mother too. Okay, not mother, mother. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode. I'm glad to be back. I doubt we're going to take a break next week. I do have a list of dream guests that I would like to have on the show. So I've already started reaching out to them. So these solo episodes are going to kind of start coming, in between guests. But I do want to talk to some certain people. Did I just say that? Some certain people I would like to have conversation with in regards to just different issues and getting y'all familiar with some of the people who I'm inspired by. And so if you have anyone that you think should be a guest on the show, tweet me or tag me at Instagram at OfficialTottie or at Table Talk with Tottie. Let me know. Let me know what you think about this show. And guys, I need your help. I need your help, guys. I looked at the stats from the show from between February and March, and we have quadrupled in downloads. Literally, I'm not even exaggerating. So that tells me that you guys are loving the new layout, the new show, the new everything about it. That makes me grateful. That makes me excited. And so thank y'all for listening. If you're just listening to this for the first time, thank you for listening to your first episode. Please go back and check out past episodes. And you can do that at natashaweston.com/podcast. And you can also listen on any of your favorite podcasting directories like iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. We are now on TuneIn as well, as well as a couple other podcasting directories, but those are the main ones. So basically anywhere you can listen to a podcast, you can find us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode number 38 of the Table Talk with Tottie podcast. Do me a quick favor and hop over to your favorite podcasting directory, rate and review and subscribe if you have not done so yet. If you're new here and you need to catch up on past episodes, you can do so at natashaweston.com/podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next episode.